So 5.0 magazine featured my brother and me in the back section under the reader's rides or whatever they call it for the people who submit pictures of their own cars. And they had the picture there of my brother's yellow Terminator, his red Mach 1, and then my blue Mach 1 and my Bullitt. And that was really cool because we were really starting to build our Mustang collection at this point. And my brother was just getting a lot of credibility on YouTube, and my Instagram had just started up. It was nowhere near the 11,500 Instagram followers it has now, and this YouTube channel was just in its infancy. I was only uploading videos at the racetrack. That was the reason I created the channel. But here you can see the mod list of the car. You could pause it and read this if you want, but this is basically including the built engine, all the suspension, everything that the Bullitt had up to this point. And so in this little walk around video that is actually an excerpt of what's on my brother's channel about the Bullitt when it was in this state. You walk around and you see the Bullitt a little bit, but the main thing about this time of the Bullitt's life was that it was a very quick bolt-on built engine car. No power adders, nothing like that yet. And this was before it got a lot of really good cosmetic things done to it. And so in the video, you can see as we walk around that I go into the interior of the car and I'm showing the seats, and you can see how the driver's seat has that bottom section that was repaired and the top of the seat is still a Bullitt seat. The bottom of that seat is from a V6 that had leather seats that I had found in a junkyard. And looking at this picture, you can see the rest of that V6 seat with a short headrest, but the bottom of this V6 seat now had the Bullitt's cushion and ripped up and shredded leather that was all destroyed from the previous owner's ex-wife. Now this is really important because we are about to change that to something even better. As far as the car went, the engine bay looked like this, Bullitt intake manifold. I was able to get a JLT ram air intake. It was the fender well one that went down into the fender, and so a full bolt-on car, built engine, cams, everything, and the car was running really good. Of course, this is a picture I took of me at the DMV getting the car registered. There was always those times. This is at the DMV. I mean, just the ownership of the car included things like that, but washing, waxing the car, keeping it clean, and enjoying it the way it was what I was doing with the car at this time. Daily driving, enjoying, just finding nice places to park and take pictures, and I was just always excited to take pictures of the car because it looked so good. And one of the things that I did with my wife was we took the Bullitt on a nice road trip to a place called Lake Powell in Arizona and Utah. It's a major, beautiful lake that's on the border of Arizona and Utah. This is the lake. It's one of our most favorite places to go, and our friends had a houseboat out there. And growing up in this area, you would know that a lot of people aspire to have a houseboat on Lake Powell. It's the getaway, it's the fun place. People take their $100,000 wake boats out there and party. So that is just one of the most beautiful places ever. And for me, I was excited to go because we had a road trip, and you can see how beautiful this place is. And so for me, it was just even more fun to have the Bullitt on an open road out in the desert. There's a little ghost town right here that's more of a tourist attraction. So I parked there and took some pictures. But the open road, driving the Bullitt, just enjoying the car. And I remember specifically pulling over on the way out there in this spot right here. And you can see that I have a ton of open road ahead of me, and I was just ready to let this thing rip. And I ran the Bullitt through the gears, and I just really had a ton of fun on this road. Every time we go out there, I look at this part of the road and I say, I want to go there. My friend has stories of racing his Terminator against a Rouge out there. I mean, it's just really cool to have a road like that. So at the end of the trip, this is on the way home, getting gas in the small little town. That's actually where my friend with his Terminator lives. And just enjoying a nice trip was fun, but then when I got back, I found something on Craigslist. I'm always looking for cars for sale. It's just something I do for a hobby. I love doing it. And I came across this black 2001 Mustang Bullitt. And I was looking at the car, and it said $1,000 for sale. I couldn't believe it was $1,000, and it was not $1,000. But I got looking at the ad, and the guy said, broken, need to sell as soon as possible, $1,000. So I contacted him, and he said, It won't go into gear, and I have the whole story about this car. I'll put a link in the description if you'd like to see that story because it is pretty incredible. But basically, what happened was this Bullitt was for sale. The guy had a title loan on it. He couldn't sell it because the throwout bearing was seized to the input shaft. He was going to lose the car anyway, and he knew that he didn't have the money to fix it up and drive it. He needed something else. And so I went down there, basically paid off the title loan for $3,000, which is what he wanted for the car. And I was able to power shift the car home. And my friend really wanted the car, and so I went in together with him. Even though I went down, bought the whole thing myself, and traveled, did everything, he wanted to go in on it with me and potentially flip the car, and to sell it. But then later he said, "Oh, I really, really want it. I want to keep it as a daily." So I said, "Look, if you're really going to keep the car, I'll let you have it for what we're in it. But there are a couple things that I wanted to do before." I handed it over to him because I'm the one who invested everything in it. And at this point, now that he would have ownership of the car, it needed a clutch. That was the first thing because we could hardly drive it home. And so at my house, I helped him pull the transmission off and we put a new clutch in the car. He bought the clutch and everything because it was his car now, but basically he got the car for what I paid for it. And then after just a couple months, he sold it, doubled his money. He got like 6.5 out of it, sold it to my friend who he sold it later for 8.5. Everybody flipped the car after me and made money off it. I didn't get any money out of it, but I did get some things I really wanted. The main thing that I wanted the most out of this car were the seats because they were beautiful. And like I showed earlier in the video, the seats on my Bullitt were messed up and they were kind of hacked together. They were still nice seats, but they weren't a beautiful set of original Bullitt seats. And this car had 120,000 miles or so on it, but the seats looked really, really good. And so I said, okay, if anything, I'm swapping those seats into my Bullitt because I want my Bullitt to have the nice seats. So I took both sets of seats out of both cars. These are the driver's seats, comparing them together. The one on the left was out of my Bullitt, a little bit shredded, not very nice. And you can see it has the bottom from the other seat on it. It's hard to see in these pictures. I know it was at night, but you'll see how good these look when they're in the car. But basically the one on the left was out of my Bullitt. The one on the right was the driver's seat out of this new Bullitt. And I was so excited to get a nice set of seats for the Bullitt. Now you can see the bolster wear is wearing a little bit on that nicer seat, and that's just normal on these cars. I didn't care about that as long as I was repairing the seat. And now these were the passenger seats out of the Bullitt. Both of them pretty good, but you can see the one on the left again was out of my Bullitt and it had a little bit of tearing on it from the previous owner. And with all seats, when you take them out of a car, they do need a good cleaning on the sides and everything. And look how good these looked in my Bullitt. They looked so much better. My car looked almost complete now. I was so happy to have these. And I think a lot of times for me, little things like this make such a difference because I lived without them. I had worse seats before. And so when you don't have that, it means a lot to you when you finally do have it. And it's the same with anything on a car that you have to work to get for that car. The back seats on both cars were about the same, so I left them in there. They looked really good. But you can see in this picture, this is what that Bullitt ended up looking like later. It got Black Bullitt wheels. My other friend bought it for a little while, and then he sold it. And it was fun to cruise around with the three cars. And the other Black Bullitt, so to make the three, was my cousin's Bullitt number 140. I have a story about that car. And sadly ended up being parted out as far as we know. Now going back to this Black Bullitt that I had bought in Las Vegas, you can see in this picture it has nice black Bullitt wheels on it. And my friend had bought those to put on the car, and the reason behind that was because when we picked up the car it had these wheels on it. They were 18-inch Bullitt style wheels. And they didn't look too bad. First of all, I'm not really a fan of the 18-inch Bullitt wheels. I think they look a little goofy on the cars, in my opinion. So I wanted 17s. But if you look at these wheels, they also have the rivets around them to make them look like they're a two-piece wheel. And I just didn't like that. But I did want a set of Bullitt wheels for my car. And so for the time being, I did take these off and I put a set of stock Bullitt wheels on the car when I sold it to my friend. So for a short while, I had these on my car, and they didn't look too bad. They were neat looking wheels, and I believe OE was the brand they were, and the stock center caps fitted them, so I liked them for that reason too. But I just couldn't really get over the look of it. Here's a picture of my Bullitt with those wheels on. It looked okay, but just a little too goofy. It just wasn't what I was looking for. It was nice to have the deep lip. I did the classic picture with the $20 bill and the lip to show how deep they were. And they did make the car look a little more aggressive, but I was able to sell these wheels to someone who had a V6 Mustang about 45 minutes away. And once I sold these wheels, I was able to buy the ones I really wanted. I bought the SVE deep dish 17 by 10.5 wide wheels and tires. I got Mickey Thompson tires. These were the Mickey Thompson street comp tire, 315, 35, 17. And I put new tires on another set of Bullitt wheels I had, and I'll tell you why I did that in a minute here. But here are the wheels going on my car. The center caps were a little bit more shallow. On the left, that's the center cap for the LMR wheel, the SVE wheel, and on the right is the center cap that comes with a Mustang. So it did stick out a little bit, but that never caused a problem. I never lost a cap. Now the reason why I put new tires on another set of Bullitt wheels was because they were from an '03 GT that I had, and they were really nice low mile wheels. But the main reason I switched the front Bullitt wheels over was because there is a difference between the 2001 to 2002 Bullitt wheels and the 2003 to 2004 Bullitt wheels. These are the 2001 to 2002 Bullitt wheels. You can see it's kind of a hammered texture. The paint on these wheels is much different than the wheels on the '03 to '04. Here's the '03 to '04. Bam! See how smooth that is? A lot different looking and a little darker in color. And the reason this is important is because now in this picture you can see that the '03 '04 Bullitt wheels matched better with the aftermarket deep dish wheels from late model restoration. So in this picture you can see that they're not a perfect match, but they are a better match than this picture with the '01 to '02 style Bullitt wheels. And here's a comparison of the stock '03 wheel on the left compared to the stock '01 wheel on the right. So you can see a difference in color, and that is important to me. So with all that explanation out of the way, look how good these wheels look. I think the 17s look the best on this car, the deep dish in the rear. This was my favorite setup. I will always love this as the best wheel option for any GT, and especially for the Mustang Bullitt. So that's my favorite set of wheels. There we go, the car was looking fantastic. I love the back end look on this car, and I would go on to lower it a little bit later, so don't worry, we'll get into that. Now the next thing I did was I took the grill off of my Bullitt and I swapped it out for the Mach 1 grill delete that was on that Black Bullitt, and I thought that looked a whole lot better. Now, a lot of people talk bad about the honeycomb grill, especially on the Bullitt, and the Bullitt has the blacked out corral like I've mentioned in the earlier videos, but I don't mind it very much, and being that the Bullitt had a specific thing there going on with the black corral, I'm not sure if I would still change that out for the next time around if I were to do that, but something to consider was this grill had already been plasti dipped on the corral. It was not the original to the car, or perhaps it escaped the factory without the Bullitt specific grill. So in this case, I was okay to put the Mach 1 grill delete in there. Now the next thing I did was put a new set of headlights in the car. These were out of my Mach 1. I was able to get a nice newer set for the Mach 1, and so the Bullitt received the Mach 1's headlights, and that looked really good. The next thing I did to the Bullitt was I bought the On in 60 Seconds Light Up Bullitt Coin Delete. Now this goes in the section where the convertible top switch would go if the car was a convertible, but on the coupes it just has a little slot there where you can put a couple of quarters. It's really not very useful. The instructions had you tap into the traction control switch, and the reason behind that was so when you turn on your headlights and it lights up the traction control letters, that same signal to turn on the power to that part of the switch will illuminate the Bullitt LED coin slot delete thing. So that's how it works. A lot of wiring. I tucked it up around the shifter to make it look nice and clean, and that's how it looked when it was done. And I also added the Bullitt cup holder piece that just goes on top of the factory cup holder. and it says Bullitt. So a lot of little dress up things inside, and it was really cool driving around with that at night, especially because it was pretty bright and you saw it a lot. So I thought that was cool. And as you've seen in the other videos, I did work with my buddy part-time at the RV resort, washing and waxing RVs. This was one of the coldest days ever. I was using microfiber towels to keep warm. It was freezing, but I was doing all this to build up the Bullitt, to have fun, and to pay for my Terminator Cobra, which we'll talk about later. I did have to buy another radiator. The big aluminum one started leaking. Every one of them that I've had, those big aftermarket ones, seem to leak somehow. So I just wanted reliability, put that radiator in the car. Something funny about working on the car was I always had to check my exhaust pipes because my little boy would stuff his toy cars in the exhaust pipes, and sometimes I just blow them out when I started the car. I did find this picture that I had made where I took a normal calendar and I put a picture of the Bullitt Mustang that was used in 5.0 magazine in one of the tests on any picture that I turned the calendar to, so I thought that was cool. That was in my garage for a long time, but I was daily driving the car. I loved it. I would go out and get treats with it with my friends. You can see the wristband on my arm there. That's from going to the races again. I was just really enjoying taking the car on nice drives up into the mountains, driving around with my wife places. This is where we had some of our bridal pictures done when we were engaged, and so it was just fun to go up to these different places and enjoy the car for what it was, a really fast street car. Now there were maintenance things I needed to do to the car, but just anywhere I went looking at the car, I wanted to take a picture of it. It was so photogenic. It looked so good with those deep dish wheels on the back. It looked good with the tinted tail lights, and I'd have them in and out. You know, like sometimes I'd have them in there for a little while and then take them out so that I wouldn't get pulled over for them anymore. But those deep dish wheels looked so good on this car. They really made the car. And over the years, I had so many people ask me what my wheel and tire setup was, and these were my favorite wheels. They were the late model restoration ones, like I said, and they just gave the stance of a car such a good look. Later, I do go and take out the isolators for the rear springs, and so that made it sit a little bit lower and it looked a lot better. Now I have some sound clips of the car driving around with the cams and the built engine before the next step, which I'm really excited to make the next part of this video. But for the meantime, I'll just show you some of these pictures. These were the most beautiful places to drive. This is where I just loved enjoying the car, and I always wanted to take pictures of it. I hung out with my friends a lot, and we go on cruises together. Here are some of my friends' muscle cars: Corvette, Trans Am, you know, another GT convertible, and I just liked having fun and playing around with my friends. Now, this picture looked really good with the wide tires and the tinted taillights. And hanging out with my friends, I thought it was really funny. I made this meme for my brother. I said, "Just remember, you screw up this much, you will be mine." And that's in reference of racing his Mach 1 against my Bullitt. If you saw one of the previous videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I did start racking up some more street kills. You know, a random G35 would try to race me, and I beat him down with a Bullitt. I made memes about it. And my Instagram was just starting up, and so people were starting to see the Bullitt for what it was. So anyway, cosmetically, the Bullitt was coming along very nicely. I had the wheels I really wanted on the car. The grill delete looked better. The seats were looking better. Everything was coming along nicely. So stay tuned for the rest of what I do to this car, and I'm going to leave you with some really cool sound bites of this car running through the gears.
Thompsons.